Hello, I'm Cat, and good news everyone, the brand new 1.26 update has had its first beta for Bedrock. You can see it's actually called 26.0 on the changelog and in the game, but it's called 1.26.0 in the game files, and honestly, I like that title more. We'll talk more about the version number later, but for now, let's talk about the biggest feature on there, because they finally added our biggest request from the Java edition to Bedrock. It took 10 years, but subtitles are now officially here. As soon as I heard this, I got excited. I mean, there are other great features inside this preview, but by far the best one was going to be subtitles, so I went to accessibility, where I was sure that they would be, and I only found text-to-speech. I didn't find the subtitles anywhere, and then I thought, oh, I must be an idiot, it must be in video, maybe like it is on Java, and I looked through video, and I just couldn't find the subtitles anywhere, and then I went back to the changelog, and as it turns out, this morning they updated it to say this feature is currently not working as expected, and we aim to have it fixed in an upcoming preview release, which in other words means they forgot to add the subtitles, the main feature of our first beta in the new version system. Okay, it's going to be one of those weeks, isn't it? But let's go into it today, because it isn't all bad news. There is, when it comes to good parity, I think our list is basically over. When it comes to bad parity, there's a lot more, but there's also lots of cool Bedrock features that I'd like to show you. By the way, if you do enjoy these roundups of the latest news, you can like and subscribe to the channel to see more of these. This is the place where we cover them as honestly and accurately as I know how to. And let's start with the absolute highlights of what you need to know, because my favorite single feature is the creator macro. This is the first of 3 brand new categories of features which I think are really good and are great progress forwards. Again, I don't want to focus purely on activities today. I want to show you a really cool feature that they just added for creators. These creator settings are disabled by default, but you can choose to enable them, the ability to copy your coordinate UI and the ability to enable command macros. These are both custom keybinds. As far as I understand, you can only keybind them on a keyboard and mouse, so you won't be able to do these if you're playing on a controller. In fact, let's confirm that is true right now. Even though I've enabled those command macros, you can see they are not controllable. So if you are playing on a keyboard and mouse, you will be able to, so this is a feature that came in a while ago, you can copy your coordinates, and you can copy the coordinates of where you're facing by pressing Control plus Alt plus C, or Control plus Alt plus X. So here is me looking, if I want to, for example, because I'm working on this world, share a piece of area that I'm working on, I press Control, Alt, and C, and it copies my current position to my clipboard. Then I can copy and paste it into Discord or wherever else I want to, and then what we can also do is I Control, Alt, X to say that I want to, if I want to show someone exactly where a build is, I could say, oh yeah, the toy cat face is right over there, and it will give me those exact coordinates. I could then take those exact coordinates and use them as a TP if I wanted as well. This is something I showed off when they were first added. A very, very handy feature, but nowhere near as handy as the command macros. So the command macros, again, I'm going to use just the simplest of examples, could be used hypothetically to allow you to, kill all of your mobs in a nearby area, but they allow you to do any command you want whatsoever by simply typing it in here, and then when you press Control, Alt, and whatever button here, so I'll put 5 as my example. Oh, let's pick a better key. Let Control, Alt, and Q. If I press Control, Alt, and Q at the same time, it will run my command, and so my example is fill, and then 10 blocks with air, because I can use this to remove a block. So right here, this is a church I made of diorite all the way back in 2012. I don't like it, so I press Control, Alt, Q, and, oh, I made a mistake somewhere in the command. But I should be able to instantly just remove it, or do any command instantly if I want to. So what did I do wrong? Let's scroll down here and find out. Oh, I didn't put air at the end. So obviously it's not going to work. So Control-Alt-Q will now remove that just like this. I can remove any block I want without having to type it in or even having to go through the whole thing by simply going next to the build that I want to and then Control-Alt-Q. Basically, I've given myself a delete key that I can use whenever I want to, and this is really, really handy if you do need to use a command a whole bunch. I mean, imagine the reverse hypothetical. Imagine instead of filling something with air, you wanted to instead fill it with grass or stone or whatever you wanted to build out of. Being able to build massive cubes instantly with a single or, at least a combined key press is massively useful. So let's imagine another example. Let's say you want to use stone because you want to make a giant mountain. Well, you can use Control-Alt-Q or Control-Alt, whatever button you want, and you can make these blocks next to each other, and you can slowly but surely make something that resembles a more interesting structure, despite the fact that it's made out of these cubes. Whereas if you're trying to manually make a bunch of cubes, it's not going to work very easily, but having a simple keybind allows you to make more interesting structures more or less instantly. Here's one that I made earlier. Isn't this fun? Anyway, so that is what you can do with this. I imagine the creativity is going to be off the scale, and the basic goal here is what it's always been with Bedrock. Bedrock is what Mojang wants to be, the creator version of Minecraft, the version of the game that you make things inside of. That is why there is a marketplace. That is why add-ons are being, added in such a tight way, and that is the reason why creator macros exist right here. These are probably things you could add via a mod on Java, but having it in the base game is going to be massively useful for anyone who wants to make sure that they're working on things and that it's stable and vanilla and everything else like that, and that is a cool brand new feature. Speaking of cool brand new features, we have a bunch of other changes which I would simplify down to being vibrant visuals related. So if you notice that I've got a bunch of color torches over here, this is still sitting in the preview behind experimental, so it won't be releasing anytime soon, but you can still have color torches if you happen to notice that. But yeah, they also made a bunch of other vibrant visuals changes, fixing a bug with screenshots, fixing an issue with the block highlight, fixed an issue of graphic modes, and basically they fixed so many vibrant visuals issues, kind of proving that yeah, vibrant visuals was a little bit earlier than maybe it should have been. They are slowly but surely fixing that. And interestingly, the third category of positive changes, because again, seeing graphical changes is good, but these are fairly minor ones. It's just good to see. Whereas when it comes to Mounts of Mayhem, the third category, there's a lot of changes that seem quite essential in here. For example, improving the movement logic for Nautili isn't that important, but Nautilus and baby Nautiluses not having a swim sound, that seems like something that should have been fixed in the major release. Whereas this release, 26.0, isn't going to be coming out until at least January or late January of next year. More likely it'll be February, but we'll have to see. So there's an update that they are releasing in a week now. It's actually 5 days at time of recording. Woo! 5 days to Mounts of Mayhem! Exciting! But no matter how exciting it is, there is still the weird question around why are they about to release an update that has a problem they know about that they've got fixed and working in a public version of the game, but they're going to wait till January to release that. I kind of understand the certification reasons why they can't add it into that update, but surely they could roll out a hotfix because I think having a less buggy game would be good and is not worth waiting a whole month for. But that's just my opinion. But yeah, when it comes to the Mounts of Mayhem changes, those will be waiting till January, and so there will be a few bugs, but that is kind of what we expect at this point, and it is part of how Minecraft works. It's just a shame that on Java, those bug fixes can roll out in a few days, but on Bedrock, they might roll out a lot later, which will bring us into the whole section of this video talking about Bedrock Java parity and how they've mostly got it wrong, because ultimately, I am very happy with the idea of subtitles. They're just not here, so I can't talk good about them. I'm really happy with the change they made to end portal gateways. They previously were making you fall out of the end. In fact, let me just show you the clip that someone has submitted with this bug report. When you go through an end portal gateway, there's just a small chance, about 5%, that when you go through it, you get sent into the void like this. Why? And it's not just dying, you'll lose everything, even your netherite gear and your shulker boxes. It is disastrous, and it seems like the sort of bug that shouldn't happen, and indeed I'm glad that Mojang have agreed and decided to fix it. This one keeps coming back though, but this is an example of good parity. Looking at Java, where you don't fall into the void, and looking at Bedrock, where you do, and saying, we should match the Java edition, but they've made some interesting decisions with other features, and let's talk about this. The one that has caused the most stir is definitely baby horses. So on Bedrock right now, the behavior is, when you grow a baby horse when you have a baby horse, and you feed it food, or when it naturally grows, it slowly gets bigger and bigger, until it becomes like about halfway the way to an adult horse, at which point you can feed it to get it over that last hill, or you can wait for it to grow into an adult. And on the Java edition, there is no such middle phase. The baby just goes straight from baby to adult. It's honestly a little bit jarring, but when you see these two things side by side, and you wonder, which of the two behaviors did Minecraft bring from one platform to the other? Well, you might not be surprised to learn that they decided to take the Bedrock version and just remove that feature to make sure that it matches Java. This is true for horses, it's true for your mules, and it's also true for your donkeys. As you can see, I can now feed the donkey, and there's no way of knowing how fed he is. This is just the removal of a feature. There was a cool Bedrock exclusive, and to be clear, this was variable. You could use it hypothetically to see multiple baby donkeys or horses, and you'd be able to work out which was the most fed, and then you could work out who was worth your food, or even just your time if you wanted to wait, so you could get an adult horse sooner. If you found 3 horses in the wild that were all babies, because baby horses do spawn naturally, and you wanted to take one back to your base and ride it as soon as possible, you could use this information, and given that this is how the real world works, you know, you don't immediately go from being a baby, you know, this wow, wow, crying, into being a full-grown adult at, you know, 18 or 13 or 21 or whatever age you believe that you stop being a toddler. That's not how the world works, but it is how Minecraft works, and it's just a bit baffling, and it's not the only weird parity change they've made. So, again, another vaguely positive one is if you have a baby drowned, here's the command for that, by the way, if you have a baby drowned, they're now able to hold tridents. This is an interesting bug that I didn't even notice, but that is, I guess you could say, good parity. Like, yeah, I think that baby drowns probably should be able to hold tridents like they can on Java, but what isn't good parity is if we look through these notices, you'll see that there's a lot of changes that say matches Java edition. They wanted to make sure a lot of things match the Java version more closely, and I think the idea of zombie riders spawning with copper armor, that probably should match, sure. I think the idea that zombie horses maybe shouldn't shrink in size when they go into adult horses, yeah, sure, I mean, that makes some sense, I guess. However, adjusting the ratio at which drowns spawn with tridents and fishing rods to match the Java edition is an example where, again, look at the Java rates, look at the Bedrock rates, and notice how they're much higher. This makes getting fishing rods and getting tridents easier. I think that given how little used the trident is, it doesn't make sense to effectively nerf the rates. You might make the case, I would make the case very strongly, that you should buff the rates on Java, but whenever there is a discrepancy, it's a 99% chance they say, let's take the Java behavior and apply it to Bedrock, even when it would make more sense to do the reverse, and I'm just a bit confused by that, because when we talk about version numbering, this is, like I just mentioned, the 26.0.24 beta. The version numbering is something Minecraft went through a great deal of work to undo, or to redo. Again, it used to be called 1.21.130, now it's called 26.0, but even then, that doesn't work internally, so for the vanilla data pack, they call it 1.26.0. Yes, this is real. Even on the changelog, you can see 1.26.0 is referenced. But so, whichever way you want to call this update, if we're going to make up a brand new one from scratch, why would it be that they're deliberately making it very out of sync between Java and Bedrock? I could understand making 26.30 match 26.3 on the Java edition, but instead it matches 26.2. There is no parity in version numbers between the two platforms, and that was one of the goals. It's like, if parity is really important, then shouldn't it apply to something as important as a brand new version number system? Also laggy Minecraft, huh? Weird stuff. It's like, why even bother going through so much work to create something brand new if you're not going to use that opportunity to fix one of the biggest concerns that people have? 26.10 being equal to 26.1 is awesome. 26.30 not being equal to 26.3 is not. And I just think that having some semblance of parity would be awesome. And if the version number is going to be massively confusing with no benefit, then I think it becomes logical that the community are going to create their own names anyway, and so why not just call this 1.26 anyway? Because interestingly enough, as well as the issue of parity not being fixed, we also have the issue of the fact that Mojang said in their little diagram here that the first update of last year was 1.26.10, implying that that is where version numbering starts, because it starts at 1.26.1 for Java, but they forgot about the 1.21.60 update that came out in February before the Spring to Life drop, which was, I guess, either called 1.26.0 or which is forgotten about. So 1.26.0 is a Bedrock exclusive update, and then 1.26 is just an update that doesn't exist on Java. That's actually quite confusing. There's a lot of problems that I have with this, and yeah, what's interesting is I think that basically, to conclude this video, I don't mind betas and previews making mistakes. That is what they are here for, but I do have a problem that Mojang doesn't seem to listen. What I mean by this is that they say at the very top of every single beta and preview changelog, please let us know via our feedback site, and if you go to that link that they are linking every single time, and you go on there and, you go to leave feedback about the upcoming game drop, it takes you to the page to leave upcoming feedback for the Chase the Skies drop. This is something I realized because I was putting together the best suggestions of 2025, and I wanted to see the best ones on their site, and it's like, yeah, there's no suggestions for any drops after that fact, because either they don't care, or the person who runs the site has been on a 6 or 7 month holiday at this point. this is a problem. I think that there is a big problem when there are thousands of people coming out and saying, we don't think that this is good parity, and I am largely expecting that the response will be nothing. I want the response to be different. I'm going to try and pressure people in the right way, but when the map change was made and everyone said we didn't like this, they logged a bug report and then nothing has been done. I'm really confused at how this happens, and it just feels like Mojang is actively putting out previews to ask for feedback and then not listening to it anyway. Everyone gave the feedback that the new GDK version was buggy and causing crashes, but they rolled it out anyway. Everyone is giving feedback based on this one change that maybe we shouldn't introduce it, and the right thing to do would be to say, oh yeah, well if it's not bringing any benefit, let's not do that, because I think that having a better game should be a priority over parity, and even if Mojang disagrees, I guarantee that if we're thinking about parity and the consistency and how it affects the game, 99% of people are going to be way more bothered about the idea of not having an offhand on Bedrock that you can put any item in, still can't do that, or the healing being super jank and broken over here on Bedrock, still using the 2010 Minecraft combat rules, because apparently that's the way things need to be. I think that there are bigger targets for parity if it is the #1 goal, and if it's not the #1 goal, then isn't it worth listening? And hopefully, I'm gonna try my very best after this video to speak to the few people I have and to share it as best I can. But I worry that this will be another situation like with the maps, like with the mobs in the boats, and I hope that I'm wrong. I really hope that, next week we're talking about how they reverted that change. That would be awesome. And also next week we'll talk about how they actually have added subtitles, hopefully. But with that said, yeah, 1.26.0, as it will actually be, or 26.0, if you want to use Mojang's version numbers, is the version coming out next year. And we've seen that they're heavily focusing on reducing the number of bugs in Bedrock, which is a good goal. But sometimes we need to think about what is a bug on Bedrock and what should take priority when it comes to fixing the game. With that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, then like that smash button, subscribe the bell button, and yeah, this video is a little late because I didn't know there was they released the preview on a Wednesday without any. I didn't know that it was going to release on a Wednesday, but hopefully we went through it pretty thoroughly today anyway. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow, actually.